Hey everyone, welcome to the Hire My VA Team and Business Building Podcast, brought to you by ugozi.com and Victory, of course. And in this podcast and at Hire My VA, we help you to reclaim your freedom through hiring and thriving with virtual assistants without breaking the bank. And that's your bank, the most important bank to you. And I'm Dave Braun. I'm here with my partner, fantastic business mentor and coach, the Alignable Book Club leader, and my good friend Larry Broughton.
Hello, handsome David.
How you doing, man?
Good. You know, it's going to be a good episode. I think we're going to try to do a part two to this episode we knocked out about how to stay positive in a negative world. Boy, do we need that now more than ever, right? But
yeah,
so it's good to see you. Glad you're in my life. It's good to see you and the brothers last night. For our weekly get together. Hey, you'd mentioned Alignable on this thing, and I'm getting I'm just going to keep doing these shameless plugs. You and I have kind of fallen in love with the Alignable platform. You know, it's not a networking. I mean, it's not a social media platform per se. It's more of a networking platform. So you're not going to go on there and find the kiddies hanging on a line kind of memes, kind of thing that you see.
Man, I better take that one down I shared.
But they're really dedicated to educating business owners, entrepreneurs, and leaders, which is kind of right up what we do. So it's kind of like a perfect alignment. Alignment. It's as if I thought about. I didn't. It just rolled off my tongue.
I'm in the presence of greatness.
Yes. Bow, kneel. But there you go. But there's the book club that you and I are doing right now. The Leaders Are Readers book club, which I'm very excited about. We've only done one of them so far. We're prepping for our next one because we all know the importance of learning and reading. But the truth is, most of us don't have time or the interest, or we're just not great readers anymore, right? It's one of those things like practice. The more you do it, the better you get at it, right? But I'm very excited about this book club because we've put a different spin on it. People can join the book club and you don't even need to read the book. Oh, isn't that awesome? All right. So why would I join a book club if I'm not reading the book? Because Dave, you and I read the book so that the members don't have to.
That's right.
We use Pareto's principle, which is roughly, you boil down Pareto's principle is we're going to take the 20% most important concepts of a book so that you get 80% of the results. Wouldn't that be awesome? Now, members do read the book. Many of the books that we feature in this are books that many of you have read. And so we do have a Q&A at the end to go into deeper discussion. Or if you've not read it and you just want the principles from it, we give action guides beforehand that you just fill out as we go along. So we're very excited about that. And we're doing books like the 12-week year, brain rules, man's search for meaning. So we're doing all kinds of books. If it pertains to business, entrepreneurship, leadership, and life, we're doing it. We're not doing children's books. We're not doing novels. I wouldn't say we're not going to do a novel. There may be a novel that really pertains to what we do. There's a lot of things we can learn from novels, but it's not like we're not going to be diving into science fiction and those kind of things. But if it's business, entrepreneurship, leadership, peak potential, those types of books, and we'll be talking about those.
Yeah, and Larry, earlier today we were talking about how it's so difficult for entrepreneurs to work on their business, and how many people are just kind of stuck working in their business and don't take the time to sit back and see, well, how does that, how can I improve my business? So that's one of the things that we talk about, and we give people a space where we go rapid through all the topics, but we give people a space to see how does it apply to their business? What can they do to improve their business or their life? And it requires, for us to be able to do that, for people to be able to do that, it requires us to be able to sit back, think, and process. And this is an hour to an hour and a half where you can do that.
Yeah. Think about how miserable your life gets when all you do is the same thing day in, day out, without new information coming on and without new ideas coming in. Well, this is an hour and a half where we're going to give you a bunch of good ideas that are actionable that you can apply immediately. And we need to keep asking ourselves, Dave, when we commit to being lifelong learners, And we commit to trying to get this one golden nugget from every interaction that we have with someone new that we meet. What's the lifetime value of that one good idea once it's applied?
It could be life-changing.
Well, we know that it's worth millions in some people's businesses. We see it, right? They apply one good idea, right? So that's why we're doing this book club. Stay tuned, because we're going to be doing a coaching and mentoring group there on Alignable as well. There will be a fee to join that, but it's going to be it was a stupid cheap fee to get in to that, which kind of lines up with the next book that we're going to be doing in the book club, in the Leaders and Readers book club. So if you want to join us, we'll put the links here somewhere on this video and in the chat, but there are a couple of ways you can do it. You can go to alignable.com, get a free membership there if you already don't have it. Go into the group section, search for Leaders Are Readers book club, or go to Dave's profile or my profile. Or if you don't want to do that, you can go to ugozi.com/book club.
There you go.
Up there.
That's perfect. Exactly. All right.
Let's get into these. Maybe what we ought to do, Dave, I don't know. How do you want to do this? Maybe review what we went over in the last one just really quickly, and then dive deep into the remaining. I think we covered about a dozen topics the last time on how to stay positive in a negative world. Clearly, some people are saying this is the most negative that our culture has been in maybe centuries. I don't think so. That's me personally.
That's being very positive, Larry.
That is being very positive. Thank you. But there is definitely more information now that's bombarding us. And I think we have to choose on how do we filter the information that's hitting us from every direction, right? So what do you think? You want to kind of dive through the first dozen, just like not even go into detail, but here's what you missed. Go back and listen to episode 156, I guess that would be, right?
156,
You like how I did that? This is 157. 156 is part one.
Yeah. And we're developing a checklist. So you should be able to go get that at HireMyVA.com/checklist. /checklist. It's not /checklist. It's HireMyVA.com/positive.
There you go.
Positive. I'm positive it's HireMyVA.com/positive.
I am too.
All right. So here they are. The 12 we went through in the last episode. Seeking excellence and not perfection.
Yep.
The next one was make a commitment to becoming more positive, just making that commitment to say, I am going to do that. Begin journaling.
Yes.
Of course, reflecting on what you're, how you are being positive. Understand how habits are formed, their importance, and establish positive habits in your life, things that help you out. Of course, part of that is, another one was exercise, having a good diet, getting enough rest and sleep, especially sleep, choosing to replace negative thoughts with positive ones. And of course, then having people, can be a lot of negative people, choose wisely your friends, limit your time with negative family folks, and as well as coworkers. And then the next one was invest in your professional growth. The more you know, the more confident you become, the more positive you are. Invest in your team. By them becoming more positive, it helps you be more positive. And then the last one, I think, Larry, was work in your strengths.
Yes. If you want more detail on those, and you should go back and listen to this previous episode, Dave, the thing that kind of comes to mind for me for all of these is we have to switch the way we think about life. And instead of being passive participants, we need to be active participants. We need to get intentional. And many of these, we need to be proactive. And the thing that comes to mind for me now about being proactive is that we have to proactively protect ourselves from things that could possibly go wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Like sometimes this is why we get insurance, for crying out loud, right? We have to plan for the worst, hope for the best, but at least, I mean, think about it. Invariably, something goes wrong with our health or our automobile or, whatever, right? You get a stupid claim, in your business. And so thank goodness you had errors and omission insurance, right? Product liability insurance. Boy, it's sure, believe me, I've had these things happen, and you breathe a whole lot easier, and it's easier to stay positive. And it puts up boundaries around those negative gremlins when you know, okay, the insurance company has got that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And I know, Larry, you've talked about for a long time, making sure that if you're in a business, making sure you've got some kind of a line of credit, whether or not you need it, because there might be times when you'll fall back. You may need to fall back on it. So having good cash reserves, having a business line of credit, maybe for you personally, getting a HELOC, even if you don't need it right now, you could you could need it, and at least you have that cushion.
Yeah, that's a good way to protect yourself as well. And I would encourage people, it's easier to get that HELOC. It's easier to get that business line of credit when you don't need it.
Yes.
Right. It's just the way it is,
Yeah.
So get it, do what you can, start small, build it up, but again, use it for rainy days, or use it for like, hey, I need to hire a couple of, key revenue generators into my organization, but the revenue's not there yet. So you can tap into it for those types of things.
Perfect.
Yeah. So another thing is like grow your network, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
If you're not, this is like why Alignable is so good, right? Because if you don't have the talent in your own being and in your team, guess what? Your network has probably got access to it somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would consider growing your network. I would use that as kind of, it's like an insurance policy, a brain trust.
Right. Yeah. And another thing is we talked about, being as good as you can at something in your business and personally, right? We kind of talked about that. It helps you have confidence, but it also can protect you from when things go wrong. You get laid off from your job, for example, or you just have to pivot in your business. The better you are at what you do, you're going to be able to recover more quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're really good at it, you'll recover more quickly. You'll have more options, and then you'll obviously then be able to stay more positive.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess that gets us that was about number 13, I guess.
Right.
Anything else we want to do on that about maybe protecting ourselves?
No, I think that's a pretty good one. Yeah.
Okay. Well, another one that kind of comes to mind, Dave, is we alluded to this earlier about asking the right questions, right? Why is this always happening to me, kind of thing? What can I learn from this? Well, maybe we can go a little bit deeper on this. Like, how do you actually ask yourself, like intentionally, how do I take advantage of, or how do I capitalize on what's going on right now in the world?
Mm-hmm.
You heard during the pandemic, people were pivoting their businesses, right? And there were a lot of people who grew during the pandemic. Not most, but there are many who grew during the pandemic because they were able to pivot. They said, okay, this is what's happening. How can I take advantage of this? Mm-hmm. How can I capitalize on this? However you need to phrase it in your mind, that's a good question to ask. So we need to be asking ourselves, okay, there's high inflation right now. What can I do? Or if there's low inflation, what can I do? If interest rates and mortgage rates are up, what can I do? Okay, they're down. What can I do? Right? Is now a good time to refi? We need to be asking these things. If there's low unemployment, what strategies can we take? Is this a time to, implement new strategies? If it's high unemployment, time to evaluate, are my recruitment efforts effective? Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of things. But again, we need to carve out a little, maybe this is one of the things I didn't even think about, Dave. To do all of these things takes intentionality. It takes a little bit of staring at your navel.
Yeah.
This is why I think morning routines are so important.
Yeah. So, it takes some thought, right? It takes you to give yourself a little bit of space. So maybe you can do that right now. Pause what you're doing right now and think about what's going on in the world, in your business, with your clients, with your family. I mean, how can you go to the next level in any area of your life that you want to go into the next level? Especially not that you are uniquely positioned for. Yes. Not culturally not you, like you, where you are in your life, where you are in your business. What are you able to do? That's right. Yeah. I mean, so no matter what's going on in the world, there are strategies that you can use to position yourself better either right now or coming out of it when things change. Like right now, Larry, I think I just saw this morning, we were in the highest inflation rate since 1982.
Right.
And
think back to 1982.
Yeah.
Gas lines.
Oh my gosh. I was in college in 1982. Goodness gracious. So, and while on the surface that is bad in a lot of ways, but for some people it isn't bad. It's an advantage for some folks.
That's right.
It's like, and so like one of the things that we've done in our life is with our, with our house, we've refinanced multiple times, but because we've never known when interest rates were going to go back up or if they're going to go low, but we've refinanced so many times. We finally got a rate that was like rock bottom. And now, inflation and everything, it makes those dollars that we're paying off on our mortgage as time goes less and less.
Yeah, that's right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And because you've been diligent about that, you're able to make improvements at your house. I mean, your house is beautiful, the improvements that you guys are making there. And, it's more enjoyable, particularly at this stage of your life, you and Cheryl, where you're going to be spending more time there than ever in the past. It's great, but you had to be intentional about this. But interestingly, Dave, anything else on this?
No, I think that's good.
Because I think it sets up for another one that kind of comes to mind for me. It's hard to do this by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The lone wolf approach to life, as you know, I talk about this all the time, is a myth. It's a lie.
That's right.
But this is where I think we need to have mentors in our life. The right mentors are going to be able to see the potential in you. They're going to act like a firm and loving parent at times. But they're also going to be a good cheerleader for you, so that when you start going off the rails and you're negative and you're being, not being able to see the positive stuff, a good mentor is going to help you pause for a second and ask some of the questions that we've been listing here with you today, so that there's an awareness, right? The best mentors do less teaching and offer more awakenings for people, right? And so just because someone calls themselves a mentor or a coach doesn't mean that's what they listen. They're exchanging dollars for services. I understand the business. Right. I'm in the business, right? But wise mentors are going to be able to help you through this quagmire for sure.
Yeah, and we talked earlier about what's the lifetime value of one good idea. And your good mentors and coaches will help you discover those.
Discover is a good word.
Yeah, the best mentors will do that. And Larry, we've got a couple of episodes, I think, where let me find them here. I'll share my screen. And I think I've got them, where we talk about this in a lot more detail.
Yes, early on, as I remember.
Yeah, so it's like, here is our podcast channel on YouTube.
Good job, Daff, on these.
Yeah, look at these. This is awesome. So it's episode 27.
Oh, there you go.
Episode 28. Hired a mentor. What's next? All about effective mentors and coaches. So we did a 2-part episode.
There you go.
There's a lot of detail on that. So you guys, if you're considering getting a mentor, or you want to upgrade what you want to do, well, you can call us, because I think we're an upgrade over everybody else. Shameless plug, right? We have all kinds of programs like Larry talked about. What we're going to do in Alignable is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
But there's
YouTube is not your bag, by the way. We are on all the other podcasting platforms. We know that there are a lot of people moving away from, or there are some people who prefer not to be on YouTube.
Yeah.
We get it, but we're all over the place. So
yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. And one of the things that I think is really powerful is, when you talk about mentors, there's the individual coaching you can get, and of course, and there's group coaching and masterminds. We have one of those, virtual spotlight sessions, and the folks that are in that. How many times have they told us, Larry, thank you so much for doing this, because I've got stuff going on and issues that I can't talk to anybody else about.
Yeah.
And it's so valuable to them. It really is.
Yeah.
So you guys got to try it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Good. You got another one?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the best ways that I've found also to stay positive is to just give of yourself. Now, when I say that, it means serve others in some way, because one of the things that it will do is it will help you get your brain off of your own circumstances, your own life. So give of yourself, serve others.
Can I interrupt for 1 second here? I know you're in the middle of thought.
No, go ahead.
So am I, darn it. No, I'm just kidding. That was not a positive thing. This reminds me, what you just got through saying, it reminds me of that mantra I share all the time, and so I'm going to share it again because it seems important. Serve first, lead second, be humble. Okay.
Yeah,
serve
great.
First. There's a reason for this. Okay. But you're right, Dave. I think when we're serving other people, we get out of our own negativity, our own whatever, the quagmire, the chaos that's going on in our brains, to help them reach their goals. The universe rewards us. God, Gaia, whoever, whatever.
Yeah.
You get rewarded when you serve other people. So I just want to make sure that we got that in there. But maybe we can talk about, like, what are some of the things what are some ideas? How do you serve people?
So one of the best things you can do is, if you're in a church or if you're in any kind of a faith, whatever your faith is, there's always tons of opportunities to volunteer there. And there's so many. You can just go Google nonprofits and see one in your area that might tug at your heart a little bit, and then go help. Call them up and say, hey, I want to volunteer, and they'll hook you up with somebody to be able to figure out what might be best for you. But I think one of the key things in serving is to just continue to serve. If you decide, well, I'm going to finally get off my butt and do something, that's awesome and amazing, but you never know. That first experience may not be the best. It doesn't matter. You just keep going and keep going, and you keep going until you find something that, man, this is my niche. This is something that really resonates with me. I am so excited to do it.
When you say keep going, you mean keep going to try something else. If the
keep
first
trying
one
to go try something else.
Yeah. Because it might not, like, one of the things, for whatever reason, we always seem to find joy in when we do these types of things as an organization, whether it's, our weekly or monthly sack lunch programs that we make, or we take the team to go to, whether it's Feeding America or Second Harvest Food Bank or those types of things. It might be donating blood. How about that? I'm telling you, I do it, you do it. And it's a kind of to me, it's a bit of a kick when I look at my blood app and say, hey, you just saved 3 lives with this last donation that you did. I mean, and it tells you right what hospital it went to. The Red Cross one is the app that I use. And so I find a lot of joy in that. We do complimentary coaching programs to people who are in need. We scholarship people. You do this jail ministry, which is amazing. Think about these men that are sitting behind bars. Somebody needs to be speaking positivity into their lives. Something happens when we serve other people. Positivity comes through us. I remember the first mission trip I went on to Zimbabwe, and I'd already been going to Africa for years, and it spent, I don't know, probably a dozen trips to Eastern and Southern Africa before going to Zimbabwe. And I remember thinking how much we're going to be able to help these people, but I end up coming back and being like, I got more out of this trip than the people that we actually went there to quote unquote serve. Right. I just got so much joy from it. And it certainly does put things in perspective when you're serving other people.
And I think that's a really key to know. That's a great point. That's a great key to know, that if you are serving in a way that resonates with you, do you feel like you're getting almost as much out of it as the people that you're serving?
I do think that one of the tricks to this is serving without the expectation of getting anything back.
That's right. Yeah.
If it's all about quid pro quo, that's not going to work. It's just that it happens to be a powerful benefit that I just feel like I'm getting filled up. But if you're serving because it's a photo op, you see these all the time with politicians, right? I just don't see the universe rewarding that kind of behavior very often. People see through it. You see through it. This is the time, I think, when you're serving other people, that is the time to be transparent with yourself. Be real with yourself. For once in your freaking life, be real when it comes to serving other people.
Yeah. And I think but I tell you, if it is something that is aligned, we use that word a lot now, but if it's aligned with you and your core values, you will feel like this is where I need to be. And you'll feel like this is where I need to be. This is where, I'm not saying it's not going to be difficult, but it is. But it's like where you need to be, where God's calling you, or your God is calling you to do, you will feel that, and it will help you get going. Because serving, like what we're talking about in different areas, when you're really serving and sacrificing, it takes a lot out of you. It really does.
Yes, it does.
It does. And so if it's not like at some point feeling like a calling, it's pretty easy to let it go. Like at our church, we've served in different areas. Like they have food pantries, and we've organized stuff there, and clothes, and hung them up and all that. It's like, Larry, if I had to go and I did that once a month, I would be pulling my hair out. I can't do that. It's just not me. But other things have been just amazing and awesome.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Good.
So, but anyway, give of yourself, some way. And it doesn't have to be some other organization. It could be giving to your family.
Yes.
It could be like you're watching your like we watch our grandkid. When I say we, that's Cheryl and me, the collective we. Cheryl does it. And there's a lot of joy in that. It saves our kids, money. I'm here with my mom's, helping her out. So that's another way you can serve as well, is, family members who are having a harder time than you.
Yeah, I like that.
So that's a way to do it.
You got another one for us?
We do.
What's on your mind?
Well, the next one is, it might sound kind of strange, but I think it will make sense what we talk about. Getting a long-term perspective. I mean, don't just look at the here and now and everything. Look at a longer term, have a longer term outlook on things, both in the future and being able to look in the past.
Yeah.
You think about Larry, I just turned 61. I know.
Still handsome, Dave.
It's not.
You'll always be handsome, Dave, to me.
I'm 29 for the 30th or 32nd time, right?
Your math is way off, but go ahead. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. But yeah, if we think back to when we were younger and all the stuff that happened in life, from all the way from the Vietnam War, that crazy cultural shift that was going on.
Sure.
I mean, if you get a perspective of what happened even before that with like World War II, you start understanding what happened in the Pacific in World War II, the brutality and all of that was going on, the rationing that had to happen, the sacrifice. You start fast forwarding to Watergate and Nixon and Ford, and we had a president, Ford, who wasn't even an elected president at all. He was
or vice president.
Yeah, he was a senator appointed when I think Spiro Agnew resigned. He became vice president, and then he became president when Nixon resigned. It's crazy.
Who would have predicted that?
Yeah. And so just think about all of the stuff that's happened over the last, 60, 70, 80 years. It really can help you get a perspective on those tough times that we've gone through and that we've always come out of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear a question asked all the time. Do you think that you're better off than your great grandparents? Right. Because your great grandparents dealt with depression, bubonic plague, polio, all kinds of craziness. Right. And all of the negativity that we face right now, a lot of it is self-imposed through, I'm just going to say it, social media, and this whole thing that we talked about earlier about comparing ourselves to others. Right. But from a historical perspective, we are much better off today than we were 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, certainly 200 years ago. And so let's look at that, right? We have indoor plumbing, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Right. We've got electricity for the most part, right? You've got shelter around you. It wasn't so long ago in this country, and particularly places around the world still today where that's not the case. Clearly, more people have moved out of poverty in the last 20 years than ever. But still, let's put things in perspective on this. We are flourishing right now in spite of the crappy political environment that we may or may not be in, and in spite of the inflationary times that we're in. I know there are some people that are frightened about the prospect of nuclear conflict, nuclear war. I understand that, right? But I'm going to repeat something I said in the last podcast that my spiritual mentor Daryl shared with me once. Is like, you see it in the news because it's rare.
Yeah.
Right. It's not happening everywhere. It's not happening every single day. All right. Let's focus on the positive stuff, right? And let's make longer term decisions. I know it's difficult to live in the present sometimes. I get that, but let's have a long range perspective. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah. And even I'm 61. I think you're 60, right? You're the baby.
Dare you? How dare you?
You're the baby. But you think about how many more years we have left, you and I, to flourish in business and with our families compared to, like you said, 100 years ago. It's amazing. We still have a lot of time left to do a lot of great things.
We do. And it does bring up maybe this is another exercise that folks can do. I hate to use the word exercise, but maybe a little action item that folks can do. And it's a little more relevant to me now than ever, because I am getting older. I do need to think about these things with the transition, passing of my son previously this year, some of my friends passing away in the last couple of years, some of them at their own hand, other people, cancer or COVID or whatever. You and I have experienced a lot of deaths in the last couple of years. And I heard people do this years ago. I think the first time I ever heard this was at a management seminar I went to. I was in my late 20s probably. And the idea was to write your own obituary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Great idea.
Right. That gives you some perspective for sure. And you've probably done this too, Dave, but that takes a little more work. But one of the things I try to do is, and I've not gone back and rewritten my obituary I'm going to be honest with you, it's been at least a couple of decades. But one thing I tweak from time to time, because I go by, I'm at the cemetery pretty regularly these days. I walk around and I look at headstones and I think, okay, what's going to go on my headstone? So instead of writing the complete obituary, what's the truncated version of that? What are people going to say about you on your headstone?
Yeah.
Right. And how do I work towards that? I realize you don't walk through a cemetery and see a-hole. The guy was a jerk. He ground me down. He was always negative. You don't see that on tombstones, but you know what you see? You see positive stuff. You see aspirational things, right? And for me, it's like, all right, Larry, what do you want on your headstone? And I hope that when people look at me, they think, he was a blessed father. He was a loyal friend, dedicated mentor, warrior scholar, spiritual student. That's what I'm hoping for. And if I can aspire to those things, it naturally brings positivity into my life instead of the reminder of divorcee, screwed somebody over there, cheated there. I don't need that kind of reminder in my life, because that's who I used to be. Right. So let's focus on who do we aspire to become. And I think naturally more positivity will come into our life when we do that.
Yeah. And my thought is, when you think of headstone, it's coming up to be Halloween, and, you walk by houses that are decorated, and we're not talking about something on your headstone that says, here lies Davy Jones. He's now all skin and bones, or, that's not what we're talking about.
I hadn't heard that before. That's good though.
I just made it up.
Okay.
My brain is strange. Maybe I am 61. I am getting Alzheimer's.
You are, yeah.
But yeah, Larry, I like that. Think about what is it you want people to say about you? Like if you're having your a memorial service for you, what is it you want your kids to have said about you? What about your friends? Are there people that are going to be wanting to say something about you in front of others? Or is it your kids are going to just be like, well, we got to say something just because, it's expected. So you think about the lives that you've seen, before you, when you go to a memorial service, there's all these slides or a movie or whatever, and people get up and say things. What is it that you want somebody to say about you? So I think that's a good way to think about it.
It is a good way to think about it. When we first, I'm trying to think about people that are, I don't know, more advanced in their life. They're older than we are. And do you remember the first thing you said to me when we got on this call today? My mom says hi.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Miss Positivity.
Yeah. All right. So let me give you some background on my mom. She is 89. She's going to be 90, almost 90. She'll be 90 in May of 2023. She's had 2 shoulder replacements. She's had a hip replacement, 2 knee replacements. She can barely see out of her eyes. She has macular degeneration. She has to get a shot in her eye the one eye that she can see out of some, she has to get a shot in it every 6 weeks. She has to have a walker to get around. And yet she, when I was talking to her, hey, I got to record something with Larry. She said, well, tell Larry hi from me. Right. So she's chosen to be positive. Now, she's not positive all the time. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about having that right attitude. When, things, no matter who you are, Larry, no matter what's going on in your life, you can choose to be positive or negative. And she really has gone overboard in choosing positive, which is in a good way.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we have to remind her to do that, but it's always a reminder to ourselves, too. So that is one of when you talk about obituary, that's one of the things that I'm going to say when my mom does pass and there's an opportunity to speak, is I'm going to say, given all the problems that she had, she was pretty positive in life, always wanting to help others, still give money, still to call people, still send cards. She always wanted to do that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I don't want this to sound like a morbid podcast when we're talking about positivity, but I do think about, this has been a pretty tragic year for me personally, one of the most painful years of my life. But I would say this, that you can't change it. So the Stoics talk about when you can't change these things, embrace it, embrace the pain. In the military, we say embrace the suck, right? Because what's the alternative? Moaning about it, whining about it. And I'm not talking about not tending to your needs when you are grieving and those types of things, but I'm talking about looking at it as an opportunity. I remember my wrestling coach saying there's good pain and bad pain, right? The bad pain is when you get a compound fracture and the bone is sticking through the skin. That's bad pain, right? But there's good pain when you know that the muscles are growing from a tough workout, or when your lungs are burning because you just did wind sprints. That's a good pain. The twitch in your side after just, working out really hard, those are good pains. And we do have the emotional ones too, right? I was on a podcast recently and they had asked, what's one of the biggest fears I have about our society right now? And generally this topic came up, that we've not been through enough pain, or whenever we've had a little bit of pain, we've inoculated ourselves from it and wrapped ourselves in both physical and emotional bubble wrap. And so we can't handle it. So I would say that it takes discernment to know the difference between good pain and bad pain.
Sure.
Okay. But pain is inevitable. When it comes, I was like, okay, what can I learn from this? Is this a growth opportunity for me? Is this pain that can kill me, or is this pain that will make me stronger?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I guess my thoughts are, one of the books I read recently, and I've told you about it, maybe we put this onto our Leaders Are Readers book club. Maybe we do this, is Comfort Crisis.
Yes, I've not read it yet. I keep hearing I read a book summary on it.
It's just,
yes,
it's a fantastic, it's actually one of the best books I've ever listened to, because I was like almost enthralled the entire like 7 or 8 hours. And it's not fiction. The way the author told the stories of his life, scientific research, it was just a really, really a great one to listen to. And so I also bought the book too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know that we've talked about it before, and I've got it on my line. I'm showing for those who aren't watching but listening. I held up my phone. It is on my read on my alignable library, The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter.
Yeah.
And if you're going to listen to it on Audible, it's an 8-hour and 52-minute listen. I always listen to it at about 1.2, 1.25, depending on the reader speed, and so you can get through it a little bit faster than that. But when you do your habit stacking, which makes me happy, brings positivity in my life, when I'm walking the dog or whatever, I'm listening to books at the same time. It's a good thing. So that is on my list. As I said, there was a good summary I found. I forget what. I was looking at some online periodical about it, like a week after you had first mentioned this book, The Comfort Crisis, and they had a good synopsis of the book. So yes, let's definitely maybe we'll put that in. We've got books lined up through January at this point. Let's do it in February.
Yeah. I think didn't we choose a book for February?
Oh, we did. So March. Let's start in March then.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds good. That sounds good. Yeah. But basically you can increase your tolerance to pain by seeking out the good kind of pain. It's actually very good for us. Very good for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there's another one related to that, I think, Larry, right?
I don't know what.
I think like getting regular medical checkups. So we're going to talk about embracing pain. It doesn't mean like you're embracing a broken bone in your arm. That's not what we're talking about. It's getting regular medical checkups can help you be positive because, improved health or figuring out why this is hurting you and maybe getting rid of that pain. That can make such a huge difference. Larry, here's a great example.
Okay.
You remember when it was years ago when I had that neck surgery, right?
Yes, I do remember. What was your voice?
Talk like Batman.
Yes, you talk like Batman. And I loved it. I wish
we
were still doing podcasts.
Everybody did. Everybody thought it was sexy. It was like, that's cool.
Well, so they did a surgery through the front of your neck and had to move your vocal cords.
Yeah, if you guys can see that, I have a scar still.
Yes.
For those who are watching.
He tells people he got in a knife fight, but anyway.
Well, I did, and I lost to the surgeon.
But go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I had a disc bulge in my neck that was putting pressure on a nerve, and my neck, it was just like constant pain, right? And one of the things that happened is I ended up having surgery, which is like, it was the last resort, is the only thing I could do. And immediately after the surgery, I had less pain, and longer term, it's just been awesome. I haven't had pain there since. But Larry, one of the things that I remember you telling me is that once you saw me after my surgery and came back into the office, you told me, "Oh my gosh, your face is so different."
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because you were carrying that pain. It's funny. We get to the point where we just get used to it.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't even realize that you're carrying it around until it's gone.
Yes.
Right. Because you used to have like this constant furrowed brow. And I thought, now either he's had plastic surgery and Botox treatments and not this fancy dancy back surgery or neck surgery he had. But no, I'm joking. But you did, you looked different when you came in, when the pain was gone from you.
And I think go ahead. I was going to say, that's a great point. Is that what you said is we just don't realize sometimes that kind of pain that we're in.
Yeah.
So what are you going to say?
That this one kind of ties into the first one that we spoke about today, that when we're doing this well, this is proactive. We're going to get physicals to identify proactively that there might be things wrong. Now, studies have shown this, that most men defer these types of things. Most women are more proactive about taking care of themselves physically. Most women will they'll schedule their dental appointments, they'll schedule their eye appointments, they'll schedule whatever it is. but men tend to like, okay, I can barely see that sign now, or that wound in my arm is actually infected and it's beginning to stink. Maybe I should go to the doctor after all. So there's two ways about this. Do the preventative stuff. Like what I try to do is I try to get all of my medical stuff done around my birthday so that I remember time for the annual physical, time for the eye exam, time, whatever it is, right? Because of this pain that we're talking about, Dave, it can creep in on us, particularly when consolidated with this isolation that many folks have had in the last 2 years because of the pandemic, and it has led to depression. I think we may have mentioned this in the previous podcast, or maybe it was just a conversation that you and I were having, that now the National Institute of Health has added depression onto one of the causes of heart disease. And this is just a recent thing, right? Because now studies have shown that lingering, that constant anxiety does have a physical impact on our hearts, right? So it's very important that we consider this. And so we are recording this around, I don't know if this is Mental Health Month, Awareness Month, but certainly Global Mental Health Day was just a few days ago when we were recording this. And so I would kind of lead into the next one. This is what you kind of mentioned here, was kind of the physical part, right? And I'm going to encourage folks on this next one to remain positive in a negative world, is to seek therapy. It is so easy nowadays. Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer, has been a spokesperson for one of these online, and maybe you can look that up, Dave, while I'm ranting here, about one of these online mental health services where you can do telemedicine with therapists that might be in your area or outside of your area, but they might specialize in certain things, whether it's suicide or bulimia or, I'm sorry.
Who was that again?
Michael Phelps.
Michael Phelps.
Because the great thing is that a good therapist will be able to help you gain some of the perspective that we were talking about earlier. Like, you're not alone. This is normal. What you're feeling right now is a natural part of the healing process. They're going to be able to help you with a lot of this stuff. And if maybe it's not, they can also help you find treatments if you're not feeling great. If you're constantly in a state of negativity and you can't pull yourself out of it, they can give you techniques and treatments to get out of it, whether it's over-the-counter stuff like hemp and CBD, or they can help you identify some exercise programs to get the endorphins kicked in, or maybe it's some kind of pharmaceutical, or maybe it's a psychedelic that can help. Therapists are out there. And I would encourage you, in fact, I think we talked about this. Didn't we talk about this in a previous podcast, like in great detail, Dave?
Yeah, let me share my screen on that.
And the thing is, my experience was the first couple of therapists I went to, I realized that they just wanted to hear the horror stories of my life. Tell me a war story, kind of thing. And another one wanted me to pretend you're sitting on your dad's lap. And you know what I mean? And those are legitimate forms of therapy, but they didn't work for me. I had to search to find the right person, right? So the same thing that we were saying before, don't give up. If it doesn't work for one, that doesn't mean it's time to, the whole industry is, a racket. Exactly. It looks like we did podcast number 132 5 months ago. A therapist for entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Now, when you're okay, so yeah, go to 132 or episode 132. Now, when you were talking about Michael Phelps, are you talking about his foundation here?
No. It's actually, so this is Michael Phelps. It's oh gosh, maybe we'll just have to put it in the show notes. But I think put Michael Phelps spokesperson mental health app. See what comes up.
Michael Phelps. Jeez, I can't even spell. Phelps spokesperson mental health.
Yeah, try that. Mental health app. Folks, this is how we do things around here. Talkspace.com.
That's it. Okay. Talkspace.com.
Okay. But they have an app. Okay. And so it's got his story on here, and he is an intrigue. His story is intrigue. It's fascinating. Okay. So you can see here, they've got individual, couples, teens, psychiatry. Yeah, there really is no excuse, you know, please, I'm begging you.
Wow. This is really cool.
One of the things I want to share with you, and just as a reminder, and I mentioned this in that, what was it? 127?
132.
Not even close. Well, it was in the hundreds.
Within 5.
I was within 5. All right,
But
I know you remember these.
But 127 is a really good one too. So listen to that.
Oh, how to create psychological something safety.
How to create psychological safety. We talked about that.
Yeah. All right. So 132. I think I talk about it there. That the therapist that I end up settling on after a long time, and he helped me tremendously, and I've referred a lot of people to him, is that I've been going to him for several months, for those who haven't heard this story, and we've made a lot of progress. I mean, when I first started going, I was going 2 and 3 times a week, then once a week, and then, every other week. And it got, so I said, listen, Doug, like, how long does this go on for? Because he kept saying, this is good progress. This is good progress. Good. And so he said, well, listen, when you first came in, it was triage. We had to stop the bleeding, the emotional bleeding, right? I'd been through a lot of stuff, and, I don't need to bore people with my backstory on this, but he said, so there's really 3 phases that we look at this, from a therapist psychiatry perspective. Stop the bleeding. That's triage. Number 2, you can kind of look at it as like physical therapy. You broke a bone, you're in a cast for a while. We realize that you're going to live. You take the cast off, and now we need to start working the joint again. We need to start, teaching you how to walk again. The 3rd phase is peak potential. How do we help you have a life that gets you closest to who you want to be?
Yeah.
Right. And that totally opened up my mind to the idea of therapy. Okay. So no matter where you are in your life cycle, the right therapist can help you. It's like a mentor in some ways, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I know that there's a lot of people who don't like psychiatry or psychology, but just look at it as, because of the pharmaceutical aspect of it, I think for a lot of folks. But there are a lot of people who use homeopathic treatments, naturopathic treatments, psychedelic treatments, or just talk therapy. You'll find something that fits your lifestyle for sure out there.
Oh, makes sense.
Big advocate of positive mental health.
Awesome
work. What are we talking about today? Oh, positivity in a negative world. What else we got, Dave? Anything else you want to talk about? I know you concur with this. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, there's a few more.
Okay, Dave. Well, then give us another example of how we can regain positivity, stay positive in this negative world that we're in. You got another one for us?
Yeah. So sometimes I think when we feel like we don't have control over a situation, it causes us to really tailspin.
Oh, yeah.
For example, you think about, inflation, everything is going up. Oh, God, you have no control over that situation.
Yeah.
You just can't do anything about it. It is going up. When we say you can't do anything about it, on the surface, you can't do anything about it. But if you go to one of the previous ones that we talked about, where look at to take advantage of every situation, the question then becomes not, I hate high inflation. The question is, okay, what can I do in my business to protect myself? What can I do to take advantage of it? Is there a way that I can grow my business maybe even more during this particular time? Right. So the idea is that in any situation that you're in, try to exercise some level of control, just some level of control. I know, I wish I could remember what book it was where they talked about this. But one of the things was, even if it's just simple things where you have to have a really tough meeting with somebody, where you've got, say, maybe let somebody go, or you're going to get let go. But any type of a tough meeting you have, exert a little bit of control. You could say, well, I'm going to take control over the time when we start. the place that it's going to be, how long it's going to be, that kind of thing. So once you do a few things like that, it helps you feel a little bit better, because we know that having no control really can lead to depression. And you think about what happens to prisoners of war. They can get pretty depressed pretty quick, obviously, right? Because you have no control, or there's seemingly no control. And I know, Larry, you'd know more about that aspect of things, but
I have never been a prisoner of war, but certainly during SEER school and other trainings that I have been through, you do learn about the psychological impact of just trying to start a routine, doing something regularly, taking action somehow in the worst of situations. For sure. So I like that a lot, so yes. And I can think of also like tough meetings that you and I have had to go into sometimes, where you think, oh my gosh, this is going to be really negative, right? But we can choose to put a positive spin on it. And I think we talked about this. Some of these episodes blur together for me, but I think we mentioned it maybe in the previous episode about just a recent meeting we had where it could have been very ugly, but we went into it seeking a win-win for everybody, rather than going in with making the assumption, oh, they're against me. And, and as it turns out, it wasn't malice at all. So we sought common ground. That could have been a negative situation made worse by a bad assumption, but instead it turned out to be a positive.
Because
we took control.
And it was asking questions. And that's one of the ways that you can take control, is by asking questions, making sure you have control over your perception, making it more accurate.
Davis brings up for me, if you don't have anything else to add to that.
No.
Okay. It brings up for me the thing, thank goodness I've got someone who helps me in this area. But one of the things that leads to real negativity in my life is when I feel like I don't have control, is when I feel like my calendar is just chock-a-block full of stuff. And we forget sometimes that this is not a contest about how many meetings am I having today compared to anybody else, because we have to have time to work on our businesses. If I have meetings scheduled, and you oftentimes do, my first meetings are generally between 6 and 7 in the morning. And if I've got them scheduled back to back throughout the day, what that means is I'm working in my business and not on my business. I have to have margin in my life where I can work on my business, get some mental clarity. It's really interesting, Dave. There are days when I've got meetings back to back, and at the end of it, I'm just absolutely frustrated because I feel like I got nothing accomplished.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anybody else? Raise my hand.
How bad is that?
Yeah.
You've been feeding into everybody all day long, but you still feel like you got nothing accomplished. Whereas if I schedule blocks of time each day and I protect those, right, then I can, I feel like I'm more productive and I can be more positive about it. Now, if I step back and during those meetings that are those days where it's back to back, if I really step back and like, okay, good. Well, the grand scheme of things, yes, it was a productive day. I helped this person out who's in the organization. That strategic meeting was really good, but I have to get intentional about it. And years ago, and I mean years ago, 20 years ago, I remember a mentor saying to me, because I was complaining about this, that I was getting home and I just wanted to like proverbially kick the dog, and I would never do that. We didn't even have I guess we did. We had 2 dogs, I guess, at the time. But I was just like grumpy because usually I was on the phone as I was driving home, still doing work, and then couldn't figure out why wasn't I opening the door. Sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. Hi, honey. How are you? How was your day? Well, because I was working right up to solving problems right up to the time that I opened that damn door to come home. And so the tip that this mentor said to me is, when you leave the office, you leave the office.
Yeah.
And the drive home for you needs to be you are acclimating yourself to the new environment you're about to go into, which made so much sense to me from my special forces days, right? I need to acclimatize before I get there, before the mission starts. So the mission has changed. Now my mission is to go home and serve my family and serve my bride. Now, believe me, I did not do this very well, or I would probably be still married, right? But I'm telling you, this was sage advice, right? So that half hour that it took me to drive from the office to the home should have been positive music, reminding myself of the victories that I had that day, preparing myself for my child at the time and my spouse, right? But because my calendar was so packed full, I couldn't do it. So I know a lot of us are working from home now. So what can you do if you're working from home before you walk out of your office and go meet the rest of your family? Take some time to unwind, find positivity. Okay. So there's a little recommendation. Control your calendar, I guess, is the point.
Yeah. There's one thing that, Cheryl's retired, my wife's retired, but one thing that she
still hard to believe.
My
peers are retiring.
I know. One of the things that she would do to end her day, because we set her office up during the pandemic in our living room, and she loved it there. It was great. Yeah. But what she would do every single day is when she was done for work, because how do you separate yourself from your living room? There's no drive home. What she would do is she would take a towel or a sheet or something, and she would cover her monitors and her computer.
I was wondering why that.
That's exactly why.
Wow, a
routine. And she made it to where her computer and everything wasn't visible anymore. So it's kind of like her closing the door on the office.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Preparing the brain. I think we spoke about that earlier in the last episode. That's good.
Yeah. Good. So she controlled her calendar in that way.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you talked about is having all those back-to-back meetings and high stress and all that.
Yeah.
One of the things that can just happen is we may have a season in our life. It may not just be a day on our calendar, Larry, but it might be a whole season in our life where there's just, a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
For example, just a mini example, I'm here, with my mom, taking care of her for a little bit. And I could be stressed a lot if I didn't say, well, Dave, give yourself a break. You're just not going to get a lot of stuff done over the next few days. It's okay. Mm-hmm. Versus saying, I need to be exactly as productive as possible at being at home, only worrying about myself. Yeah. That leads a lot of stress. Yeah. So it's like, be aware of a particular high stress situation that you may be in. That's gonna, if you add even more stress on it, it's going to cause you to go down the negative path.
So agree.
You talked about our home, right? Adding some remodel to it. Oh my gosh, answering the contractor's questions, making adjustments. This is going to cost more. This is going to take longer, all that stuff, that adds to, if you have a packed calendar, you add something like that on top, you're about ready to just pull your hair out. Yeah. When those things happen. So you really have to be aware of all those kind of things that's going on in your life.
It can all feel like a hurricane sometimes if you're not planning and you're trying to separate yourself. And one of the things I needed to think about too, Dave, is in the past year, I'd forgotten earlier when I'd mentioned about what a tough year it had been. I've had 2 surgeries in the past year.
You have
it as well. And so I had to take that into account, that's part of the season. It's not just one day of recovery. And me, I had the surgery. I'll be working from the hospital bed the next day. Where's my phone?
I've done that too.
Let's be easy on ourselves from time to time, because there's no way you're going to maintain the same level of productivity during these seasons than when you're performing at peak that's not a great sentence structure. But you get it. When your performance is near its peak.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to be the same.
Exactly. And one of the things that we talk about with HireMyVA is when it's, your business, you have a good team behind you, they can help offload during those seasons of stress so that you can continue to make progress forward. So having a team is great. HireMyVA.
Yeah. And I was writing a couple notes here because I didn't want to forget them, because it does circle me back immediately to, now that I'm beyond all that stuff, and your home is, the remodel is nearing an end, and it just is looking so good, and all the tragedies of my life, is circle back about being grateful. There's something
Yeah.
about gratitude, being intentionally searching for the gratitude in everything multiple times a day, that brings positivity. I can just feel my spirit change. I can feel my shoulders, drop a little bit when I'm actively looking for things to be grateful for. And gratitude is like it's a superpower. It truly is a superpower. And I know that gratitude, because we believe it's so important, we've done a couple of episodes of the podcast where that's come up over and over again too. And Dave, you probably know, of course.
They're here. Let's see. They are 107. What is the importance of gratitude? And 109, how to be more thankful.
There you go.
Oh, this one's good. How to overcome overwhelm.
Ooh. Oh yeah. Look at Dave. Look like you're yelling at us there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Overcome it now.
Yeah.
Blackers.
Damn it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
So that's definitely a good one.
Power of gratitude. It is a superpower for sure.
Yeah. And one of the things that when you are grateful, and when you display a lot of gratitude, there's going to be a lot of positive words that would come out of your mouth. So that's another one, is speak positively, not just to others, but to yourself. Speak good things into your own life. And do we have another episode where we talked a little bit about that?
I'm sure we do, but it reminds me, again, I'm not the smartest tool in the shed, but I'm a great aggregator of ideas. And a mentor told me, one time, treat yourself like a firm and loving parent. Okay. Yeah. How often do we do that? Oh, look, 75, looks like.
Not enough. We don't speak to ourselves well enough.
No. How to speak positively to others.
That's right.
Yeah. There you go.
So
good job on pulling up the history, Dave.
God, it's amazing. All the stuff that we've recorded. There's some pretty good stuff here, Larry.
Yeah, there is. There is. Yeah. All right, so speak positively to yourself and others. It's amazing. People want to be around folks who cheer them on.
Yes.
When you are positive to other people, you will be amazed at how, not necessarily loyal they become, but how grateful they become to you. And what I find amazing, Dave, you've seen this in some of these masterminds that we do, where you or I will see potential in someone that they don't see to themselves. And when we speak positively to them, I'll generalize. You got the goods. That's a pretty general statement, right?
Yes.
And you see people just break down in tears.
Oh,
they don't. How many? I can't even count the number of times where something like that has happened, Dave. Right? Because most people don't hear that. All they hear is the negative stuff. No one's ever told them that somebody believes in them, right? So do that to other people, and it's amazing how you'll get that back from folks. It's like the old thing, I'm rubber, you're glue thing.
Yeah.
How's that go? I'm rubber, you're glue. I don't know. Anyway, it bounces back to you is the point. Forget it. Well, edit that out, Daff. That'll be a blooper.
Well, the thing about the glue will stick with me. But
yes. Yeah, there you go. But speak positively. There's something about seeing someone light up when I don't mean lie to people, and I don't mean being Pollyannish to people, but I mean like when they really are doing something that deserves a compliment, or you see a light in someone, to speak that into them. I can tell you, my amazing, super talented, loving daughter who's 21, and I went to it's kind of a big deal event in Newport Coast. For those who don't know, it's kind of a
wanky place. Yeah.
And there were probably 70 adults there, and then a toddler, a 17-year-old, and then Emily, and everyone else was like 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s,
Yeah.
And most of them very well to do. Many celebrity types were there, and there was this woman that was there that Emily knew of, had never met her before, but knew who she was. And I had met this woman's husband several times before, but had never met her. But when she met Emily and she just spoke positively into Emily's life, like, you are a light. Do you have any idea, how you're going to positively impact people? This is just from a 5-minute conversation that turned into like a half hour, 15-minute conversation. And Emily was just beaming. Because someone spoke positively in her who now I do it all the time too, but when your old man speaks to you, over and over again, it gets, okay, you're my dad. Of course you love me. She actually said that to me the other day. I said, hey, I love you. She goes, I know, you're my dad. It's like, well, not every dad does this. But anyway,
need to speak it. Still need to speak it.
She was on a high for a couple of days because someone, other than her folks, spoke positively into her. And this is someone who she looked up to from afar. There's power in that. So I'm encouraging you, speak positively into other people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Another thing that's important is embracing failure. I know we did kind of a quick transition there, but if you can choose to embrace failure, really, really will help you to not just be positive, but to speak positively to others. Now, Larry, when we're talking about embracing failure, I don't think it means like, something that's really, really bad. Like, oh my gosh, I broke my collarbone. Oh yeah, great. Way to go. That's not what we're talking about.
That's not even failure, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So I think it's more like the kind of failure that's needed in your life or business in order to succeed or to achieve your goals. So, there's a lot of examples, and I love sports.
Yeah,
and there's so many examples of that. Almost invariably, the ones who are in the Hall of Fame, the ones who are at the top of the list, the elite of their professions, have failed the most.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, they all have.
Shown over and over again.
Yeah.
Some of the best home run hitters have the most strikeouts.
Right. Exactly. We were watching a program on called Fastball. I don't know if it was HBO, but they talked about the history of measuring the speed of somebody throwing a fastball and how fast they were and all that. It was really fascinating. So they talked to as many of, some of the, the players and some players that faced fastball pitchers. And they talked to Nolan Ryan, who was arguably the greatest pitcher in the game. Well, he had the most strikeouts, or he struck the most people out, far and above everybody else. But he had a big problem at the beginning of his career, was his control. He walked a lot of people.
Yeah.
But he was able to forget about.
But here's the thing. Somebody spoke into him at the early part of his career.
Yeah.
And said, tweak this by this much. I see potential in you. If he would have been judged by that segment of his career and that alone, that he had all these walks, this guy ain't going to make it. Yeah. Get him out of here. But someone spoke positively in here. He tweaked it by a half a degree or a degree. And the ultimate trajectory of his career was, like you said, one of the greatest of all, if not the greatest pitcher ever. Right. Yeah. So it's so important. I think that's it's a really good point, Dave. There's so many sports analogies.
Yeah. And I think the way to embrace failure is not to forget about it, but to look at it, learn from it, and then move on from it. Right. That's what we talk about. We even had an episode where we talk about AARs.
Yeah. Well, because
that's what you're doing.
Innovation, change cannot happen without failure. We all know the story about Thomas Edison. How many times did he fail with the electric light bulb before it actually became a working model, right? We know this. Anyone who's around innovation embraces failure if and only if you learn from it.
Yes.
And you learn from it by doing an AAR, right? But if you're the type of person who thinks, everything's got to be perfect, I can never have failures, yes, there will be tons of negativity around it. We must flip that switch in our brain that says that failure is bad.
Yes.
Failure is only bad if you keep repeating the same problem and you have the same failure over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Failure is a good thing. This is why it was Maxwell who wrote Fail Forward.
Oh yeah.
Is that the one?
Yeah,
right?
Did that, yeah.
But there's so many books. The people who are afraid of failure are the people that don't go anywhere in life.
Yes.
Those high achievers love, I don't want to say love it, but like you say, embrace. I think that's how you started this, right? And they embrace the failure.
Yeah, they realize it's the cost. You have
Exactly.
to pay it.
That's the investment.
Yeah, the investment. I think cost is not the best word for that. Investment is a much better word.
That's
it really
really
is.
good. Yeah.
I mean, it is. It's like you're investing in so many things to get your business to grow. Hopefully, you're investing in mentors and masterminds and tools.
Yeah.
But one of the things to invest in is failure. That's
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Dave, we could go on and on and on with this, but let's make an executive decision here and kind of wrap this thing up. And I would leave it with this.
Yeah.
If you want to have more positivity in your life, and this is not a shameless plug, I'm serious about this, join our book club. Well, why join the book club? Because you're going to find other like-minded, positive people. And it's that one step towards getting that great idea that you can apply to your life so that you see lifelong change, right?
Yes.
All these things that we're talking about over and over again, you have to get intentional and you've got to do something. You got to start a routine. So make this part of your routine. You know, that I'm going to go to this book club once a month. I'm going to take one or two of the great ideas that are shared that Dave and Larry have aggregated from this book, put it into my life and see what kind of change I can get in my life over the next 30 days. That's taking charge. I promise you, when you do those types of things, and I mean commit to it for 30 days, you can't commit to a new item, a new tool, a new technique, a new concept and do it once and it doesn't work. And so you walk away from it. You know, pick one or two, apply it to your life. And I promise you that you're going to find more joy and more positivity because you're taking control.
You just
want to add on?
No, you were just giving me an idea because the book that we're going to talk about of how we can actually add something that's not in the book, an exercise that will really make the certain section, I think, really come to life and make it very applicable for folks. But guess what? They're going to have to be on it. Yeah,
you're going to have to be. What I would encourage folks to do, I'd like to hear from you guys. What are you doing to maintain a sense of positivity in what is seemingly a negative world right now? Give us your feedback. I want to hear more. My sense is that we're going to get some DMs on this thing from folks who say, hey, can you talk about X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, right? We'd be happy to.
Most of these topics come from you folks. So we got to hear from you. You know, what do you want to talk about? Because Dave and I could pick a topic. We could be a blowhard all day.
Yeah.
On most things. Yes.
Yeah. Well, for this episode, we're going to wrap it up, but make sure you go to HireMyVA.com/positive and get your free download where we're going to have all of these different things that Larry and I talked about. They're going to be there, and you can kind of get a way to maybe rate yourself and figure what do you maybe most need to work on.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be pretty cool. Okay. Well, again, thank you guys for joining us and being with us. Remember, building a team is the way to reclaim your freedom, and it's a great way to keep positivity in your life. And we're here to help you to do that with our course community and our white glove service, where we find a rock star VA for you. Yep. 3 things we'd love for you to do right now, and we'd really appreciate it. Number 1, subscribe to the podcast. If you haven't already done so, either on your iPhone or your Android phone, go to YouTube and subscribe as well. And then number 2 is give us a rating, preferably 5-star. That's what we'd love. But, whatever you want to rate us, that's great. And leave a comment. If you're watching this on YouTube or watch part of it, just leave a comment there. That helps us to get the word out. It helps the algorithm, and we'd really appreciate that. Yeah. And then the third thing is go to HireMyVA.com for more information on our course and community. Go to HireMyVA.com/positive to get your checklist. Take a look around there. We've got a lot of stuff there for you because that website and our service is going to help you, even without experience, to prepare for, hire, and thrive with virtual assistants. We're helping a lot of folks. We're getting some great feedback that love our white glove service and the information we have in our course and of course our community. So get more information on that. Go to HireMyVA.com.
That's right. Hey folks, do yourself a favor, do the world a favor. Go do something significant today. All right. God bless you. God keep you. And my favorite, God hold you. All right. We'll see you next time.
Okay.
Peace out.
Bye, everybody.